So the next combination of exit and entrance strokes we're going to look at is letters that end with the underturn. So first we're going to look at underturn to a basic entrance stroke. Okay, so let's start with the letter A, and we'll connect that to the letter B. So A ends with an underturn, and B begins with a normal entrance stroke. Okay? So the end of the underturn connects to the entrance stroke of the B, and you'll notice that this shape at the end of the underturn is almost the exact same shape as the exit stroke on these letters up here. So really what all of these connections from the first letter to the second letter ending with an underturn will be almost identical to the connections that end with an exit stroke. The only difference is that you have to think of it as one motion, which you'll see in a couple letters. So A, now the underturn, the exit of the A, becomes the entrance of the B. Like that. Next combination is from an underturn to a partial entrance stroke. So let's do the letter D to the letter E. So normally with the letter D, we would end all the way up here at the header line. So this is one stroke coming down and around like an underturn. And then the E is just a partial entrance stroke. So when we connect them, that becomes one motion, starting up here, coming down and up, and I know I'm connecting to an E, so I'm going to stop right here rather than going up to the header line. Okay, and then we make the E. So this part, this segment of that underturn becomes the entrance stroke of the E. Next we look at this underturn to an extended entrance stroke, and by now this should start to be pretty self-explanatory. So if we start with the letter I and then let's connect to the letter S. I plus S. So when we make the underturn, rather than ending here, we're going to think to go all the way up. And I should have used this color. I'm going to switch right now and go up and make that little piece. And then come around with the S. Okay, so you'll notice here, this connection, because of this underturn shape and then going out and up, it looks like this spacing is wider than this spacing. So when you make that type of connection, it's helpful to think of it as making this underturn a little bit tighter than you normally would, just so that this spacing here doesn't look too wide. And I'm going back and forth between these colors, so this is not part of the connection stroke. Okay, so this spacing you can tighten a little bit when you're making that connection. Make it a little tighter. Next is the underturn to the overturn. A and then N. ends with an underturn, and then the letter N begins with an overturn. So the last stroke of the A and the first stroke of the N become one stroke when you connect them. So this is the last stroke of the A. And then once I get about here, instead of continuing up to the header line, I start thinking that I need to curve around over to make this overturn. So again, if you were to make this shape like a strict underturn and then here start the overturn, this would look wide and the letters would look too far spaced apart. So when you make this connection, you can tighten it a little bit so that the spacing is not too wide. And our last connection from the underturn goes to the compound curve. The letter U to the letter V. So the U ends in the underturn and the V starts with the compound curve. This is all one stroke, and this is all one stroke. So this ends up being a pretty long stroke when you put it all together. So the final stroke of the U. At about this point, I know I'm gonna curve over, and then I have to continue with an entire compound curve, like this. So that ends up being, by itself, it looks like this. Underturn, now I need to go and do a compound curve. And again, you want to keep this, the spacing between the letters, so this is between the U and the V. You want to keep that tight enough so that it doesn't look too wide. Okay, so that completes all of the connections from the exiting underturn.